Hey guys, welcome to my Full Moon Friday series where I talk about some of the full moon features from my personal collection. Now, if you aren't familiar with Full Moon Entertainment, it is a long-running production company known for releasing cult horror movies like the Puppet Master series and other direct-to-video cult classics. They were popular among B-horror fans in the 80s and 90s, and Full Moon still operates to this day and still has a cult following, although I would say the quality of movies has declined. If you are already a Full Moon fan, this might be a fun blast from the past for you. If you're unfamiliar, these videos will kind of help you get started with some recommendations.
Back in the early 1990s, Charles Band of Full Moon Entertainment wrote a vampire series. What could possibly go wrong? Let's take a look. Subspecies is a 1991 American-Romanian film directed by Ted Nicolau and stars Anders Hove, Michael Watson, Laura Mae Tate, and the tall man himself, Angus Scrimm. The plot follows three American college students studying Romanian culture when they learn that two vampire brothers are feuding, putting the students in the middle of a battle between good and evil. So this is the beginning of a pretty long-running franchise, 6 films and a spin-off, I think. I don't know if I'm including... So 6 or 7, something like that. And what impresses me the most is the consistency, at least, in writer-director Ted Nicolau and Anders Hove as the vampire Radu. So I consider myself a fan of Full Moon, kind of the same way that I'm a Troma fan, I guess. The quality is all over the place, but I'm still a sucker for these kinds of companies. I mean, I still buy the Puppet Master movies. Most fans consider the first Subspecies film to be like a top 5, Full Moon film. And while I don't necessarily think it's great, I would agree. And so this Subspecies movie, I really want to love this. I really do. I like it though, and don't get me wrong, there is some charm here. But I think my main problem is that I was way too late to these films. I only got around to watching them maybe 3 or 4 years ago, 5 tops. It's kind of like hearing Motley Crue for the first time in 2025. There's just no way it can be the same. And I love vampire films. I mean, I'll pretty much give any of them a chance. That's not to say that they all work for me, because they don't. And if you haven't seen the Subspecies films, maybe you're, considering checking them out. I think the best advice I can give you is to just know, what they are going in. This film, at least, this first one, it's not scary. It's not even really creepy. And it's kind of unintentionally cheesy. So for me, when it comes to vampire films, a cool vampire movie absolutely has to have interesting vampires, in the very least. If all the human characters are going to die, I don't really care about them. But if they're supposed to be more than that, and you're supposed to root for them or care about them, then you need solid writers and character actors. Well, the writers here are Charles Band, Jack Canson, and David Pabian. So I guess Charles Band needed help writing this very basic story. I'm not really sure why he would. And for the actors, I don't recognize anybody besides Angus Scrimm, of course, which is totally fine. That's not a big deal. It's just that none of these characters are interesting, except Radu, played by Anders Hove. I don't know much about this dude, but one thing is clear to me, and that is he loves playing Radu. And I love him for that. He just has to. I mean, he returned in 2023 for Subspecies 5, 25 years after Part 4. I mean, I doubt it was a huge paycheck or anything. He does bring more charisma, that I think, than anyone else in the film combined. And I like Radu. I really do. I consider him, kind of like a cult B-movie villain. He's pure evil, but not necessarily scary. Evil in a comic book villain or 80s cartoon type of way. Maybe a little more brutal, but not that much. His character draws inspiration from, some classic vampires, Count Orlok, especially with the long gangly fingers. There's even some trademark Nosferatu-esque use of shadows here, which was a very cool touch. I gotta say, it's very clear that it's an homage, and that's fine, and that's awesome. My only complaint with Radu is that I wish he was more scary. I think he's supposed to be. He does lurk around and kill local villagers, and they're scared of him. So there's that. A good villain also needs a good look, though. And I do think Radu looks pretty cool, and he does have he does have a unique look as far, as much as this is a generic vampire movie in a lot of ways. He at least has a fairly unique look, and he needed that. And he also does have this ability that other vampires don't have. Like, he can summon these little demon dudes, and he does it in the beginning of the movie by breaking off his own fingers, which turn into the demons. And this is a pretty cool idea, but the animation style or whatever that they use, the technology that they use here, they look beyond horrible. It drives me insane because, again, it's a cool idea. It's a really cool idea. They could have done something, I think, with like claymation or stop motion technology, but instead they really just look like 1991 computer game characters, and it's just, I hate it so much. Stefan, Radu's brother here, who's pretty much the good guy, I guess you could say. He's okay, I guess, but mostly pretty underwhelming. He just kind of looks like a male model. His acting is all right. So I guess I really only like Radu here, and his father, I guess, played by Angus Scrimm, but you only really see him at the beginning. So, my final positive is going to be the fact that I thought Ted Nicolau did a pretty solid job here as director. He shot on location in Romania, which was awesome because he had plenty of cool like ruins and forests to play with, and the film was the film kind of gets these like folk horror touches from that stuff. I do wish it was more focused on that, though. That would have been cool. Maybe if you left out the American students and just had a Romanian thing going on, this actually would have been really cool. So I'm giving Subspecies a 5.5 out of 10. It's fun. It's campy. It rarely takes itself serious, which I sometimes can't tell if that's intentional or not. It's almost a vampire parody, but not quite, and it's definitely not supposed to be. I prefer my vampire stuff a little bit darker. That said, I'm looking forward to watching the rest of the series. So yeah, any Subspecies fans out there, which ones are your favorites? Cheers, guys, and I'll see you at the multiplex.